Welcome to Show Studio's live panel discussions. In these discussions, experts from all parts of the industry discuss and debate the most important fashion week shows for the season. Today, in the midst of Paris Fashion Week, we're going to be discussing the Sacai show. I'm PC Williams, and I'm going to be your chair. I've got four amazing individuals with me. I'm going to go around and you guys introduce yourselves.
I'm Iolo Lewis Edwards. I am the director of High Fashion Talk.
Hey, I'm Alexandra Hackett, aka Mini Swoosh, and I run my own menswear label called Streetwear ALCH.
Hi, I'm Gladman. I'm a writer and editor and currently on the Show Studio editorial team.
Hi, I'm Gareth. I am a fashion consultant.
I mean, we couldn't get any more brief than that, but perhaps.
Very general.
So obviously today we're discussing the Sacai show. I just wanted to start with what we were expecting, what we like about the brand, maybe if we just go around and then we'll bring it back to what we've seen this afternoon. Iolo?
Yeah, it was pretty much exactly what I expected from Sacai.
Okay.
She always takes a new sort of theme and interprets it in her own language. And she did that again this season and it's pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah,
Swoosh? What do we call it? Do I call you Alex and Mini Swoosh? Which one
I
should we
mean,
go
my
for?
friends call me Mini, so it's fine.
Okay, so Mini,
whatever you say. Yeah, I mean, Sacai is pretty consistent in terms of like their aesthetic and what they do. There's always a lot of like mix and match and hybrids that happen, mixing kind of luxury and sportswear. So we saw a lot of that. Saw a lot more tailoring than I expected. Even though I know she usually does thread that through the collection, I feel like it was heavily tailored as opposed to perhaps previous seasons.
I mean, the thing about Sacai S is that essentially she's sort of, been doing this kind of like mashup, bringing loads of different kind of splicing garments together. She's been doing that for such a long time, and it feels like there's a lot of new brands that are kind of jumping in on that. So I was kind of interested to see how she was going to kind of push it forward and keep that, keep her stamp on that aesthetic, because you've got all these new brands like Connor Ives or Marine Serre also bringing in that kind of multi-different garments all in one, and I feel like this is like her sort of domain to play in, and it's definitely still there.
Nice.
I think the magic of Sacai is when you look at one total look on runway, you feel like it's multi-layering with different garments, but it's actually just one garment. And I find that really intriguing.
Yeah.
And also, this collection for me, it's very cheerful, because I think compared to the previous collections, you have a lot of heavy fabrics, heavy knits, and for this collection, you have a lot of lightweight fabrics for spring-summer collections, which is very refreshing. And I like the beginning of all the fresh colors. It seems like there are a lot of.
I thought it was really interesting starting with the print. I don't feel like I think of Sacai and I think of print. I think to me it was like a whoa. But it was done in like I think the messaging through that print, with it being sort of, a print of the world and it being about our space, I think it set the tone for what the collection was going to be like. And I thought to me it was really interesting as a start with this idea of stamping her authority on this sort of aesthetic, to be like, I can do this aesthetic with these unexpected fabrics and it still feels 100% me and the woman who I represent and what it is I'm trying to say, What did you guys think of like the prints, the print, whether it's in the first look or how it's done through the embroidery in the second look in the collection?
I mean, I'm not going to lie, I feel like the map is a really literal allusion to make if you're talking about the world, and I get it, it's pretty obvious, and I guess I think of Sacai as being a much more sort of cerebral brand and bringing in something that's a little bit sort of abstract, a little bit beyond that. So that felt like a really obvious connection to make. Having said that, she gets a lot. So I felt these looks, while I like them, the map print is not doing it for me, but she gets much stronger through the rest of the collection. Yeah,
I mean, I think that it felt really light. And I thought that was a nice way to start a show for someone who, all the detailing in her clothes are like so, for lack of a better word, like excessive, like they're really worked, the way she manages to, as you were saying earlier, mixing lots of different garments together, but it's one garment. And I think to start on a really light tone felt quite joyful.
Yeah.
And although it's not like necessarily like intellectual or, I was like, I was like drawn to it immediately. I was like, what a nice way to like have a really hopeful view on what's to come.
Yeah.
And what's really not like, without, you know, mixing my words, a really depressing time for us to be living in, you know? And I think that was, I mean, Minnie, I can see you doing a face.
Personally, when I saw the map print, I immediately thought of that satellite imagery that Prada did like 2 years ago, like spring, summer 17. It's very different, but I immediately thought of that because I love that print. But I think the beauty in Sacai is like actually feeling the garments like in hand. So like when you actually see a product, it's beautifully made. Like the layering is amazing, and it's like such an exquisite like piece of art, like each piece.
Yeah.
And you can really see that. Yeah.
I mean, didn't she? I'm just reading what you said ties in really well to like a quote that we have from her, which is, "My collections are based purely on the creative instincts. Maybe I'm an idealist, but I'm a firm believer that if you're producing well-designed products at the right price, that your business is destined to flourish." This idea of like feeling the product and it being beautiful in your hand, you know, I think she really gets that right.
I think what's really interesting about those sort of the lightness of those prints is that actually, as we've been looking at the spring-summer collections, you know, for 2020, they've tended to be quite heavy. They haven't really felt very springy. There's been a lot of like, you know, kind of gothic tones to it. There's been a lot of sort of military kind of, you know, like combat kind of things, or it's been quite dark and heavy and protective. And, you know, actually I'm coming around to your opinion about the lightness and the joyfulness. And it's so nice to see that for spring because, as you said, we're going through a bit of a terrible time right now.
And also you'll be coming out of, I don't know, when I think of coming out of winter, all I want is to wear all the brightest things I can find in my wardrobe. And be like, yes, it's finally time to wear like basically nothing but in bright colours. What looks were you particularly drawn to, Iolo?
I quite like the tweed stuff. It's just different for her because she's so like military. It's kind of like her take on the Lady Who Lunch. Yeah. Like, it's that new introduction of a woman maybe that is less sort of pragmatic and practical.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this part of the collection was probably my least favourite.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree.
It felt like I'm going to try and do the Chanel lady, but young. And I wasn't really like, I mean, if you go up the screen a second for me, we can stop here. So the pants look, I thought the pant leg, the design of that was quite interesting.
Oh yeah, that's pretty weird, that bell bottom.
Exactly, the way that was done, I thought that was quite nice. But maybe I just don't like that fabric. I think it is what it is.
I think it's been tainted by well, not like tainted. That's a bit mean, but like, you know, Chanel owns that space so much that I think it's really difficult for people to kind of come into it. Like they've dominated it for, you know, however many years, like 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
I think that's why I like it, because it's a new take on that, which you don't really see anymore, because it's so owned by Chanel.
Yeah. I mean, if it was in a different fabric, those shapes are really interesting.
Yeah.
And they feel very sort of like her reinterpretation of what like a suit is, or what like a lady who lunches will wear. But do you know what I mean? But that lady of lunch still like finds herself at like extant rebellion, and she's still like, do you know what I mean? It's like that, but I just, the fabrication of that for me was...
I quite like the styling of it on the right though, where it's just with the
t-shirt,
like a grunge t-shirt, and it's like very like edgy almost.
Yeah.
And that contradiction of like Chanel luxury with like edgy like vintage tees. I quite like that idea.
Yeah. What's brilliant though is that is just one piece though. That's the design, not just the styling. That's what's so cool about Sacai.
I do think the styling of this show was wicked. As a stylist, I was like looking through that, just being like, yeah, this is done super well. Like it was so, to me, it felt like really clean, but really fresh. Like it's not trying to be cool, it just is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like some people try so hard with styling to make things look cool, but to me, it's just everything that came down, like the platforms at the beginning and the first few looks with the rope detailing, I thought were really cool. And if we go back up to the top for me, thanks guys. Guys, what about you? What were you particularly drawn to?
To be honest, I don't really like this part of the collection because I feel like it's quite heavy as a summer collection. My favorite is actually the first part with the map, because I think I like the fabric, I like how light it is, as I mentioned before. And I do think the beginning of the collection has a bit more feminine touch compared to the previous collection. But I think, just my opinion, because I love streetwear, and I know she does a lot of collaborations with Nike and other street brands, I think it will be a bit more interesting if she involved with some collaborations in the beginning of the collections with the dresses to make it more diverse and to make it more, how do you say the word? We mix and match the streetwear with high fashion.
Oh, like kind of like the sort of like clash of high and low.
I think it's still strong for her to not do that though, because it establishes herself as not a hype streetwear brand, as more so like her own entity, and that she's just coincided with the trend that's existing now that streetwear is. So I think that kind of just like shows her strength as a designer. But I mean, the streetwear pieces are my favorite, so I love that white bomber jacket.
On the right?
I think it's the same one styled differently.
Oh yeah.
Actually, no, it is.
It's actually,
One, because it has a double zip.
I like the idea of like, you know, these climbing belts and stuff, kind of that you kind of really, I guess, extreme sport / utility like details on this, because it brings in that, so, like you mentioned before, with the Sacai has this sort of like more military or urban kind of like urban sport aspect to it, and sort of bring it in onto something that's essentially a relatively feminine look, or you've made a bomber jacket with a climbing rope belt to look actually like a sort of tailored silhouette, which I think is actually really smart, to bring two things that are quite tough and quite street, to bring them together and create that ladylike silhouette with the skirt as well.
It makes me think of a hanger rink, because she used a lot of like climbing bits in the styling of her last show, and it was very sort of like it was about the ropes and like the metal work, and really beautiful. And I think it's really nice to see it in a different context. I personally, my favorite look is the red jumpsuit, which is further down. Yeah, on the left. I'm just like, when can I buy that? Where can I wear it to? I'll create my own event so I can wear it to that. It's so sick.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that it's like one thing, I think is so amazing. Like, those pants on that jumpsuit, to me, that's life. Life in a pant. Hides everything. You know? I would look so skinny wearing those. It's like, whoa, hello. And then I just think and then the trench coat that's like really long, I just think that whole look to me is just amazing.
Do you think women want to buy one look altogether? Is that something that women want?
I don't know. I think we're in a really weird stage now, aren't we, with like the buying of clothes and like sustainability and the guilty feeling you have about the amount of stuff that you're consuming. And I think, Minnie, your brand does a lot to do with that, with the repurposing of things that already exist. And I think I personally would want to buy something that's in one, but I do realize that it makes it much harder to fit into your wardrobe, because you have to wear that thing as is, as opposed to being able to mix it in with things that already exist. So it's a tricky one. What do you guys think?
I mean, I'm kind of of the opinion that I'm the sort of person that when I style myself in a good outfit, which is rare to be honest, but like...
You look amazing today.
It's just a top. I'm like, somebody dress me. But, you know, I will remember it, and I will definitely do that outfit again and again and again, because I'm just like, well, I've got it now and it looks good, and so I'll stick there. And so I'm very much pro doing the whole look, and I would buy into that, because also I trust, you know, Sacai to dress me better than I would choose my own outfit myself. So that's my opinion on it, but I don't know, what about you?
Actually, I get tired of the total look very easily. So I like to buy small pieces of items from each brand to just mix and match it. And I also don't really like the idea to wear like the same total look for over 3 times. It's just me, because I get tired of it visually. I would buy some signature item from Sacai to mix and match with it, like bomber jackets, trench coats. I'm so happy that she's doing the menswear line right now, because that's what I was kind of waiting for.
I do feel as though the suiting from this collection ties in with what she's doing over on the menswear stuff. It feels like it's definitely been influenced by the tailoring that's happening within the menswear and bringing that
collection. Is that the resort collection?
So if we look, is it this one? If we go down, So if you look at what she's doing with the tailoring here, I feel like that's come in. You can see it's linked directly to what she's doing with the women's tailoring.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
The shapes are quite similar.
Absolutely.
Yeah, even the shorts that she's doing with women's shorts and men's shorts, you can wear them. You can wear a shorts from women's collection and just no problem at all. Yeah.
I think shorts are like generally big for like short suits. They were like a low-key style trend for sort of this summer, and like going in for spring summer, it's going to be like everyone is going to be wearing a short suit. Like Max Mara did it. Prada loves shorts. Shorts and shorts. Everyone gets some shorts. That's my hot take. But I don't know. I mean, the thing about the women's wear and the men's wear is that it's quite interesting to see how that aesthetic crosses over, especially as obviously with this menswear collection, women are also walking on the catwalk. So it's kind of interesting to present women's wear and menswear when actually both of those offerings are mixed gender as well. It's almost like doing two collections for the price of one.
But I do think that the tailoring that we see in this men's collection, someone made a point about there being more tailoring than we were expecting in the spring summer 20, and I feel like the tailoring from here has definitely influenced that design studio whilst they were designing the women's spring summer 20, because to me there does feel a bit more. There are more sort of like masculine-led pieces within this collection than I think before, which aren't like streetwear or, do you know what I mean? It's this idea of tailoring and the aspect of tailoring and it being a bigger part of the collection. To me, feels like it's come from having been doing the menswear stuff,
Absolutely.
But I could be wrong.
Yes. She comes from a knitwear background, I think, so that would be the more soft stuff, and she's probably exploring that whole tailoring thing right now, as you're saying.
What did you think of the knitwear within this collection that we've just seen? Sorry, Nadine.
Can we hop back to
SS20?
Yeah. I know, we just keep swinging along. Like with the tufting that was happening.
And it's like a half silk dress.
I like it.
It's not this one. Is it further down?
I think there's another example.
It was also done in like a skirt, I think. Yeah, like that one on the left, isn't it, with the tufting and this dress there. And I mean, what did we think of that? So like the textures and stuff within the collection.
That really reminds me of something from the 2000s, but I can't think of who I'm thinking of.
Is that the matte print again?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, put in black.
I prefer it like this because it feels a little bit more abstract.
Yeah, I suppose the map colours are quite, the traditional map sort of geography book colours. And so having it in a different colour palette sort of brings that, I guess, the abstract thing that I was looking for initially. Like, I agree with you.
It's more of like a jacquard effect.
But I also think it's interesting that, like, if you look at the panel, the one person who's like, oh my God, I love the colour print is literally head to toe in colour. And then those who are like, I love the print is literally head to toe in black and white. But I also think that it shows that print can work it's so versatile and can work for lots of different people's style, I do like that one on the right with the shirt, the slightly like asymmetric shirt.
It's just, again, it's that really interesting interplay of the geometry there, because, that's really, like, all of that is at completely sort of disjointed angles, but yet it still feels elegant and quite fluid. And I think, in the hands of someone with lesser skill, that could look really
tacky,
studenty, kind of, and I think it's a testament to Chitose Albe's skill that, that really pulls off,
I wanted just to talk about, not necessarily the clothes for a second, but about the casting, because I think the idea of diversity has been like a big discussion this season, rightfully so. What did we think about the casting?
I mean, it didn't strike me as being the most particularly diverse cast, and it didn't strike me as, I don't think there's any body diversity either, which I think is something that people say again and again, like, why don't you put, you know, a curvier model on the catwalk?
And also her clothes would be sick on curvy women.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's like if there's a collection made for women like me, it's this.
Well, it's just, if you're looking at like, you know, these kind of like semi-transparent, we've got like half kind of like a MAC, like the, you know, can you just imagine how beautiful that would look on, you know, a curvier body?
Yeah.
And, you know, if you know, I'm sure that model is doing her best with it, but I just feel like that could be definitely showcased, you know, on, you know, a different figure. And like, especially that later on they've got these, you know, the half satin dresses as well. Like, God, that would look incredible on like an actual, like a fuller bust, you know?
There's the navy one in the middle. There was also further up, there was a khaki version, which was like a khaki, like knit dress, and it had the silk half dress falling off. And I was like, if that had like some tits and ass and that, jeez.
Yeah.
You're not ready. Not ready. I thought for me with the casting, I was happy to see a girl in a hijab on the Paris runways. I think that was definitely something, but I did think that it wasn't doing enough.
It's a little bit samey.
Yeah, you know?
They all kind of have the same kind of vibe to them.
I'm also a bit confused about Kaya Gerber as like the final look, because
I had to take a double take. I was like, is that?
Yeah, I feel like, you know, her beauty is kind of like hidden behind this. I don't think this is the look for her, or like, you know, why get someone as, you know, a big face like her? And I don't think that
Cover her all up.
Yeah, I don't think that works to showcase her or showcase the look.
Yeah. Also, putting her hair inside that dress is just not really a good look, I don't think.
It's a bit of a waste.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, which is a shame, because, you know, obviously she looks great and like the outfit's great, but I think just all of that together, it's just a lot going on, and so nothing is done particularly to its like fullest extension.
In general, do we think Paris has done well with diversity or no?
I mean, not really.
I always feel
the same.
Yeah.
New York always leads on it, and then everyone, like, you know, all the subsequent
Trickles down.
Yeah, it doesn't. I'm not sure. What do you think?
I always think that it's always the last one to like have the light bulb switch turn on, you know? And I think, and to me, Sacai is obviously really forward thinking with the way in which she designs. But yeah, I think that by showing in Paris, which obviously works for her, and I'm not saying anything about that, but there's something that's not necessarily clicking there. And I think there are so many women of so many different shapes and sizes who buy into this brand. And I think, you know, it would be great to see them on there. But the same thing, you know, I think when it comes to higher fashion, the brands which are more like higher end, which aren't necessarily interested in the cool factor, it does become much more samey. It's less about trying to get a new demographic. It's more about preaching to the same woman who you know has the money to buy what it is that you're after, and forgetting that there's like a new generation, a new crop of people with like disposable income who want to buy into what it is that you're creating.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Especially if you've got that streetwear crossover, like there's a lot of younger people moving up that have a lot of money to spend. So I don't think you should neglect that consumer per se.
Yeah, because you know, in comparison to like, say, like your Gucci's or whatever, you know, you've got your Gucci sort of branding, which is like super, you know, kind of quirky is a horrible word, but you know, that kind of like really oddball kind of styling, but you know that their core customer is, you know, wearing the horsebit loafers and, you know, has a blow dry. So they've got to really tackle those two things. But I feel like the Sacai customer, obviously, like as you said, it's a much, you know, it's a much more sort of switched on, clued in kind of customer from that, perhaps that streetwear background, who is bringing a kind of a more forward thinking approach. So I'm surprised that that has not sort of strayed over into the casting.
Yeah. I think we are there any, I'm just going to throw it out for like last comments.
I'm just going to say on that white polka dot dress, all I can see is that Zara meme dress.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Which one?
The one just down a bit. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that's all I can think of.
Like that dress that, you know, became...
You know, that's got that Instagram account? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly, which is why I covered my face in shame.
Yeah, I think that's just polka dots in general. I think polka dots are a very difficult print to design in a very sophisticated way, especially like...
I mean, it's beautiful, but personally, that's all I can see.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's something that I would wear, but
The navy one is cute.
Yeah, I like the darker one.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm skipping the whole polka dots.
Yeah,
movie.
just
You just don't like it.
What about the shoes?
Yes. Well, I was mentioning the platforms with the ropes. I thought they were amazing. Not that I wear heels, but if I did. Not these ones. They're further up, and they're like a platform heel, like flat platform, and then they're just like rope around the foot. I think it's like the first couple looks. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
I
Yeah.
just loved them. I thought they were, and they did one in like red, maybe, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, I think it's a couple of.
Can we go into that trench actually, the middle look? So the second outfit on the first, yeah, that one there. We zoom into that. I just think the workmanship.
Yeah.
Sick. Those are really cool.
Actually, close up, I'm starting to appreciate them a bit more. I think, like from a distance, you sort of just get the overall effect. But actually, when you see it close up, you can see actually there's the neon and like the beautiful kind of again the asymmetry.
Yeah.
There. It's really quite special.
There weren't that many accessories. You know how everyone's been doing like a bag? Everyone's got like their little miniature, like useless bag that they
It's
take.
the ultimate like
$2.5 grand.
Instagrammable item right now.
Literally.
Yeah.
And she didn't do that. And maybe I'm wrong.
She did this one, but
the
like
globe,
it's
she's got the
marine
globe
set.
bag.
It looks a lot like the marine set.
And also, I mean, I think it might just be the image, but it actually doesn't look that well made. If it's meant to be.
Is that the shape?
The globe bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's not like nice and smooth.
Yeah,
like you'd
I'm
imagine
confused
a world
like
to
what
be.
it is. I think that's a bit of jewelry at the top.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little pouch or medallion sort of thing, which I think is quite interesting because there's quite a lot of shells. It's sort of styled in that similar way, like Marine Sarah again had these kind of like shells and the. Actually, what I really wanted to talk about was from the show notes, and she's quoted George Clinton and Funkadelic, "One Nation Under a Groove," which is definitely, giving that kind of like funky, kind of like, I guess, Afrofuturism kind of vibe from, the Funkadelic years, of, like, the 70s, but, which I can't see it so much. It's not as.
It feels very grunge to me.
Yeah.
It feels like a posh grunge.
It would be the heavy eyeliner.
Yeah, it's that
makeup
eyeliner
is
is
definitely
super heavy.
Yeah.
But Minnie, you were saying that you watched a video from the show, and did it have like Funkadelic style music? Because I haven't actually watched.
I mean, I only saw like one video clip with like sound. It sounded a little bit hardcore.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't really.
Who knows?
Because I wondered
I
when
don't
we
know
were.
what the whole track sounds like.
But we were talking about this before we came on air, and I wanted to try and find a video, but didn't have time to.
The set was really beautiful, like the blue lighting and like all of the like abstract shapes that were in the structure. Yeah.
Ooh,
Like that's really
very nice.
beautiful.
it's quite like it sort of looks like the Balenciaga spring show from last year. With all, can't remember who the artist was, but it was all that blue kind of digital kind of 360 digital projections, that same color blue.
I think it's really hard when you're talking about a show and you've not been to the show, because I think a lot happens about the experience of the show, and it's more than just like these flat two-dimensional images we get on Vogue Runway of what the looks look like. Those looks come to life with however they're presented.
But then again, I mean, the majority of customers and people interested in
never going to
experience.
Yeah, but I do think that it adds a layer to the clothes, right? Like I feel like there's something to be had from like sitting down and being with the music that they want you to hear it to, and with the lighting that they want you to have, and
I mean, perhaps that's like a small reason why some brands are inviting like members of the public to come and view the show.
And some brands are going totally like AI and doing it all like digital, like making.
Yeah.
It was like a really cool thing, I think, in London with Machine A, and like lots of young, like recent graduates from CSM, and they all made these like VR films, and it was like if you watch that, that's how they want you to see the collection without having to like spend thousands of pounds on it. And I thought that was a really interesting way of getting people not just to see the clothes, but to also have them experience the clothes as you would want them to,
Yeah, I get like sort of like the subconscious or into like the designer's mind of like this is the kind of message like beyond the clothes, like the feeling of it.
Because
Yeah.
We were talking about the show notes and how incredibly short they are.
Very brief.
Super brief.
Well, yeah, because you were saying that, like, you know, when you've done your show notes, that you're making sure you've got everything on there so that no one can miss.
Trying to keep it concise, but like, there's just so much to say.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, especially when you're designing something as, like, you know, replete with references like this, you'd think there'd be, like, you know, a few pages or something, because there's so much going on.
Or a page.
Or a page. But this is, it's, I don't know, you know, it's really small. It's literally this big. So, I
almost feel like she could have just done the title.
Yeah.
And that would have been like
Same.
either just the title or loads.
I feel like it could have just been One Nation Under a Groove, the words were all put in Funkadelic.
We would have been like,
And then we'd have got it.
so.
But I think beyond like the way the use of prints, how do we feel in terms of like how much streetwear influence we could see within the clothes?
Not as much as in my mind I was thinking, because when I think of Sacai, I think of the night collab. That's my sort of like first entrance into it, which is amazing. But then looking at the collection, and then I'm all sort of like, oh yeah, no, she does actual designs as opposed to those sportswear things, which I think is a great reminder for me to kind of like remember where she came from and why Nike partnered with her to bring that design aspect.
I mean, I always think like one of the primary reasons that like Nike would collaborate with like a smaller, not that they're smaller brand is so that you can share your target audience. So like in Sacai's example, you can, by collaborating with Nike, you can create a product that has Sacai's essence at a more reasonable price, let's say, and you can cross over your customer. So a Nike customer will buy into the Sacai brand and a Sacai customer will buy into Nike if they're not already. But I find it funny that she doesn't really cater towards that Nike customer, even though that Nike customer is huge.
Do you find this with your brand? Like this idea of crossover?
Well, I think that's the biggest strength in collaborating with a larger company. You know, it can be Nike, it can be Adidas Originals collaborating with, you know, smaller designers.
Danielle and
so it really like elevates you as a brand, and it's like a really great way for larger companies to support emerging designers.
I think the Nike customer though is very different from the Sacai customer at like base level, right? And so when I think of the like streetwear stuff, like her streetwear aesthetic, it's so ingrained in like a Japanese streetwear, which is like the ultimate high end of streetwear in my opinion, right? And so I think when I'm thinking about what am I going to see from Sacai in regards to the streetwear that she's going to put out in the show, it's always going to be this like high level, like insane attention to detail, but still feel like it's got its like roots in sort of like urban culture, but urban culture from the Far East. I just don't feel like I saw enough of that within this collection. This collection to me felt very grown up in its femininity.
You know, what I would say is that the tweedy stuff, which we're sort of like, you know, on the fence about, I like that actually reminded me of a lot of, you know, I've seen Japanese street style of bringing that kind of like really feminine, really girly sort of tweed looks. You know, I can imagine, I've definitely seen some on Instagram of like people with like a cute little twin set or like the pearls and that aesthetic. And if actually on the menswear collection for spring summer, there were those big hats as well, which also felt, and with the almost like the sort of bow tie kind of thing. And I genuinely, I was just like, actually, I can see a sort of Japanese like street style influence coming through, or at least like like Japanese street style archetypes. Maybe they're coming through in that way rather than a straight up streetwear. She's borrowing from street culture, you know, in all its many forms. Maybe.
I think.
What do you think?
Maybe she's just a bit bored of streetwear as well. I read an interview with her where she was saying that she wore Vivienne Westwood or did her hair in a certain way, and then her friends started copying her, so she got completely angry and bored, and did the complete opposite and found another thing. So maybe she's done that. She's like, done streetwear now. Everybody's doing it. Let's move on to tweed. Or
I mean, I don't think she should cater towards it, because you shouldn't. You know,
you should do what organically feels right to you in that design moment, you know? And she's one of the few brands that's like luckily 100% in creative control of what it is that she does. Like how few brands can you think of who have, where the head designer and the owner of the brand has 100% creative control?
Yeah.
So I think it's amazing. It's great that she gets to go in whatever direction she does, but it says a lot about our expectations as a consumer or as an audience as to what somebody is going to present and what we're expecting of them, and then what they in turn deliver. I think that's quite nice. It's a good question for ourselves, you know, like these are creative people having a creative journey, and it might change, and that's fine because that's what creativity is, you know?
I think also, you know, I think her brand was actually started in 2009, so this is like a 10-year anniversary, I guess, and in some extent you have to kind of just really give her a round of applause for keeping her aesthetic alive and being so influential. Completely without, you know, other people coming in and changing. She's managed to keep that going and do it so well that she can stay independent. Like, you know, you've got to give her the props for that, you know.
And you truly can like mix a piece from like her first collection like with a piece from this collection, and you wouldn't really know that there's a 10-year difference.
Her aesthetic is super strong. You know, the fabrications might change, the silhouettes might alter, but the aesthetic is definitely like always as it is. You know, she's got such a singular point of view, and it's really nice that it hasn't been damaged by like corporate responsibility, you know,
coming in like.
I mean, it's like this. It's just so unheard of in like the kind of like business of fashion.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to just say, quite proud that I've managed to keep a conversation going. I was like absolutely bricking it. Like I'm not going to be able to chair for this long, and it's not going to be interesting, but it's been super, super fun. I just want to go down the panelists and just get your last comments, views on what we've seen, what we've discussed. Gareth, we'll start with you.
Start with me, okay. To organize my word a little bit. Well, I think generally Sacai as a brand is a name to represent the good taste. Whoever chooses to wear Sacai, it's a representation of a good taste. And I think she has perfectly established this throughout the 20 years of the journey in fashion. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see more collection from her.
Right.
I guess the thing about Sacai is that, you know, she's always brought these amazing references together, and I think she's done it again with this collection. And I think, you know, she's been so influential. You know, if you look at like Virgil, if you look at, you know, lots of the young designers coming up now as well, like graduating, I think they're really they've been inspired by at least the idea that's behind Sacai, which is this bringing the stuff together. She's a not only designer, but she's also a curator of influences, and I really respect her. She's great.
Yeah, I mean, one of her best assets is the fact that it's consistent, and you know that her pieces are interchangeable within various seasons. There's a really wide variety of different like feminine vibes, so there's like a lot of different types of women catered for per se. There's definitely pieces that I love, but I always love like how she reimagines like bomber jackets and key staple items like season after season. She like does the same staple piece but manages to do it in a completely different way, which is so inspiring. Yeah,
I think it's nice to sort of finish off on this sort of positive, sort of light collection, which is a bit of a contrast to what we've seen in Paris. And yeah, there's amazing pieces, and you can see where they're really going to go into people's wardrobes.
And I think that it's been an incredible 45 minutes spent with you guys. Thanks for making my first travel experience so not as scary as I thought it was going to be. I told you, all of my nervousness just like goes once the camera goes on. In terms of the collection, I think it's been a collection which has allowed us to have a conversation, to agree on things and disagree on things. It's also a collection which has paved the way for more conversations about diversity and women and what we're after in terms of our wardrobes, and with this new sort of like invigorated like conversation around like sustainability. And so how do these pieces fit in with what we're doing? And, you know, is there a space in the modern day wardrobe for entire looks, or is it, you know, more about pieces, and I think that's quite, for me, it's one of those things that I'm going to take from this. I am still in love with that red outfit. I need that red outfit. I think as a bigger woman, it's really nice to see a collection that is for multiple shapes and sizes. And I think, you know, a lot of people play the diversity card by having like bigger girls or people of different skin tones on the runway, but the clothes aren't really made for bigger girls, you know? And it's like to see a collection which hasn't necessarily used bigger women, but you can see how that piece can go into my wardrobe and not feel out of place. It's really nice and refreshing. But also, she's just like a boss woman. I mean, it's really nice to see women being their own bosses and like setting their own rules and being able just to live by them. Yesterday was totally non-fashion related, but yesterday was like the 100-meter finals at the athletics, and Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, who's just a new mum of like just over a 1-year-old child, wins, and she's like, this is for every woman who thinks that they want to start a family or is starting a family. You can be whatever you want to be. Remember why you started. And I feel like Sacai has never forgotten why she started this brand. You know, this brand's view has not changed in the 10 years that she's been a solo designer. So thank you to all of you guys. Thank you to all of our panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys at home for watching. For more extensive Fashion Week coverage, be sure to visit showstudio.com. And if you're watching via Show Studios YouTube, be sure to like, comment and subscribe below. We'll see you next time.